Hi, it's Michael, and it's week 5. I'd like to talk a little bit about week 4. I know we have at the end of the week a link to your JS Fiddle, which will be assignment 2. And I'd like to just give you some ideas of what's happening this week. One thing that I am puzzled about, and I understand there are many different ways to get information. You might be over in Canvas reading the modules, which is terrific. Or if you have been taking advantage of these, or if you have any feedback at all about these videos, I actually go through and do a lot of the things that I'm asking you to do just so you can see me do it. Yeah, so, but in this case, it seemed as though there was a little bit too much confusion. I get it. There's many different people. This isn't the first thing on your mind, of course. But still, I don't necessarily like to feel as though I'm repeating myself or wasting your time that you're doing something that isn't valuable. So I do want to say these are here on purpose. I've taught this particular exercise many, many times, and I understand the confusion. I've been trying to make it simpler, but let's get a few things straight. So, many of you on week yesterday asked for some feedback on Monday. I'm not the biggest fan of Monday feedback unless it's already something we've spoken about. If I've given feedback, I hope you take it and you can use it. If it's confusing, not helpful, just ask again. I'm more than happy to help. But the week does end Tuesday, which is today, is when I grade. So remember these deadlines as being something like I'm more than happy to give feedback on very open, rough work. However, the one idea that I kept seeing that was missed is that the first set of records, and I'll just go ahead and thank you, Dina, for this. I'm just going to open yours right now. Is just to give me the names of the fields. That's all. This is the field name, and this is the value inside the field. And technically, oops, let's not mess up anything. Technically, this should say end, job, company, and role. I'm not going to get too picky. My point is to understand what is the data you are marking up. In the prior assignment, we wanted at least 8 fields. That's a minimum, right? And I'm just trying to see what these are. Then you're going to translate them into HTML. So I thought that was really fairly straightforward. Now, that doesn't mean people didn't start doing all these other things. So let me just make it clear. This is not an HTML page. HTML, if we want to look at it, I'll just pick on somebody at random. This tool, by the way, tries to tell you that there are 4 parts of a web page. One is CSS over here. I have it way over here. It's blank. It's blank because CSS is what does this look like? We don't care what it looks like. In fact, this is a preview of this markup. It shouldn't look like anything. In fact, these aren't even tags, so they won't work at all. These might work, but their visualization is based on a default style sheet, which is really, really unhelpful. Anything visual at this point is really unhelpful. And then it's JavaScript. So that's why there's 4 panes. And there's a thing called CodePen, which is terrific. But if you're using all 4 of these or using libraries or anyway, there's tons of things you could use. I am honestly trying to use this just as a text editor that gets HTML syntax, and that's it. Okay, so anything else that you're doing, anything to do with a page, anything to do with, yeah, not needed for this assignment. And it's confusing to me. All I'm trying to do is to get you to understand these words. This word, beer, wouldn't it be great if your tag could be beer? That's the most meaningful way to give a name of a beer, right? Hint, there is actually a way to do that, but we're not going to talk about it because it's not important. In fact, the important thing we're learning is a controlled vocabulary, a minimal, actually a vocabulary that's pretty small, right? Of this, I don't even think half of this is particularly usable because they're all very contextual, like to forms or something. So the very generic, in fact, you can also see the 5s. All the 5 stuff is what we're really interested in because the 5 stuff was there to get away from everything being a div. I don't know if anyone knows anything about HTML, but if you read this, it would be like, what is the point of our, as an information architect, why are we even involved in this? Is because we are trying to use language to make sure that we're building these structures. And building structures, much like any kind of, let's say, if you were a plumber, and once upon a time I was a plumber, there's a certain set of things that you use to plumb. Like, you don't make up stuff to do plumbing. Not really. You need to know what they're called. In fact, that's why we're learning this vocabulary, because structurally, there is actual structural difference if you have 15 sections on a page versus 15 articles on a page. Right? That's a semantic difference. Now, which is right or wrong? The coders, they shouldn't know. Why would they know? They, in fact, hate, most people who make HTML code, it generates the code for you. It's very verbose. It's almost impossible to read. But that doesn't mean this exercise that we're doing right now is meaningless. It's actually just saying, hey, you have actually accomplished, you're halfway up the pyramid. You have made it to information. And while you might say to yourself, well, this doesn't look good at all. I only have one record and everything looks terrible. We're not interested in looks, because looks, as we'll get to this week, most of your content is, first of all, read by a computer. Right. Also, I don't want to get into this, but I think I demonstrated in my video. If you've ever made a document in Microsoft Word, all of the concepts are pretty similar except for the repetition part. The repetition part is what we'll get into today. But headers, heading structures, if you don't know that you can create heading structures and it'll use those to generate a table of contents for you. The reason why is that structurally, if you structure your document, you can rely upon a lot more automation to make things helpful and work. So we're going to continue right down here. If you would like feedback and you haven't got it, and you think you want to make sure that I'm giving you what you need, because I'd say about half of you can improve your HTML. The only thing you have to do right now is repeat your record 3 times with different data. And when you do that, my hope is you'll see how verbose and repetitive a lot of your HTML is, and try to simplify it. That's my hope. But I will try to help you simplify it. Or maybe I won't. But if your one record goes on for almost an entire page, that's a lot of HTML. Imagine a page could have hundreds of those things on it. That's a lot of HTML, right? You're trying to, it's a little bit of lean and mean, but right down here, paste, if you didn't get feedback, paste it right there. But this week we're talking about words. So last week we talked about words, the words of HTML. And I'm going to say that I will describe to you what's happening. We're looking for the words that help you see a bigger picture. Now this week is going to be per record. So there's a few ideas here. Once again, I go way into it in videos of just me explaining it. Hey, lucky you guys who did beer and wine. Here's just an idea of words. Like, this is the taxonomy. We're doing taxonomies this week, by the way. So this is taxonomy of beer. Here's a alternate taxonomy of wine by different flavor compounds. So there's an idea of using words, and this is a kind of a, at least when I was young, I liked this scene about this guy organizing his record collection and how he's very particular about how things should be organized. And it just is letting you know that your organization is not for you. It's not idiosyncratic. That's why in the beginning, I wanted to have topics that weren't really easy to organize. If there's only 100 of these things, you can organize them however you want. If you're in a museum and you only have a certain amount of exhibits, you can organize them. However, the point of this is to say that the ways we show and demonstrate organization have changed. Maybe they start with genus and the kind of technical names. Then they got into maybe lifestyle or things about their environment. And maybe now it's more about affinities, visual affinities or quartz. Anyway, they're just, you can organize things in many different ways. And that's what these examples are meant to talk about. There's also some little articles here, and these should be reflected as well in Canvas, but I just want to make sure they're here about card sorting. This is a way to we will get into maybe a little more next week about how do you actually next week we'll be getting around the content itself. But this is about the records. Do you have a taxonomy? That's all I'm asking. If you have one, please share it. We're also going to talk a little bit about this idea of keywords, which is close to taxonomies. It is very controlled and specific vocabularies that represent your topics. So these words should also, this taxonomy, reflected in your assignment that's being turned in, because one of those areas or more are words that most should understand about how your content is grouped. So this is the final, this is when I talked about grouping a few weeks ago, maybe tried to get you, this is the grouping week. Last week was the hierarchy week. Make sure that your hierarchies make sense. This week, grouping words are really important because this is going to lead us to being able to filter and search and so forth. That is week 5. Please don't hesitate to contact me if any of this is unclear or if I can help in any way. Thanks.